Hello, you should be watching this video after you've watched the video on prefixes and suffixes, read the notes and review on common prefixes and suffixes, and have reread this article in Mentor Text 5, Cage the Machines. So right now I'm going to model and show you my thinking as I use prefixes and suffixes, which are called affixes, to determine the meaning of a word I don't know. Like this says, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the next page. But just to review Cage the Machines by Peter Sowell, the author's main claim was that drones should be regulated because they come with a lot of risks to the public. So most of the details in this text are going to be supporting that claim. Let's look to the next page. I'll use my zoom feature. Remember that you can always zoom in or out as you are reading this as well. And I'm going to read paragraph 5 right here. Now, I'm going to think about two things as I read this paragraph. Number one, there's a word in here that I really wasn't sure about the meaning of, so listen out for that. And number two, I want to be able to clarify at the end of reading this, what did this paragraph say? I'm going to be able to summarize a little bit. So take a listen. One popular line of drones introduced a software update in 2015 that prevents its drones from flying within a 24-kilometer, 15-mile radius of the White House. This is a good first step. I think she means first step in regulating the drones. This technology, known as geofencing, polices the flying of drones. Restricting flight in or near other locations, such as stadiums on a game day, might also be wise. All right, so I'm wondering if you've heard the word that was confusing to me. You'll find out in a minute if you were right. But first I want to make sure I understand what that paragraph was talking about. So I'm going to grab a sticky note. We'll do yellow. We haven't done yellow. I'm going to move it up so I can still look at paragraph 5 as I'm writing. And I'm just going to make myself a little note to make sure I understood what that paragraph was saying. So paragraph 5 was about, and I can go back and look at that paragraph too. Paragraph 5 talked about, I remember how it talked about a software update. So something that was updated on drones. And what did it do again? It prevented drones from flying within a certain distance of the White House. So this program in the drones kept drones away from important places like the White House. And the author said this is a good first step in regulating them. So let's see how I can put this in my own words. Paragraph 5 was about how one brand, instead of a line of drones, I'll say a brand of drones, has a software that stops the drones from getting too close to the White House. The author thinks this is a good thing because it regulates drones. I'm bringing that back to what the main claim was of this text, that drones need more regulation. All right, so there's my little note to myself about what the main idea of that paragraph was. That just helps me make sure I understand what's going on. Now I'll click off of it, and we'll look at the word that was really troubling me. And the word was, let me grab my highlighter. The word was geofencing. I really did not know what the word geofencing meant. But luckily, I can look at the word, split the word up into a root word and prefix, and infer what it means. So I'm going to zoom in again so you can take a better look at that word. The word is geofencing. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the word parts. Now, I can actually tell there are word parts. If you read the notes from earlier, you might be able to see that as well. Get my pen. The word parts I'm seeing are, the first one is geo. I'm going to draw a line right there. And the word geo, I remember, has something to do with Earth. The word geo has something to do with Earth. I remember the word geology is the study of Earth. Other things with geo relating to Earth. Now, geo can be a prefix, a word part that comes at the beginning, or it can sometimes be a root word, a word that stands on its own. But in this case, I'm seeing it's coming before a word I recognize, so I think geo is a prefix. All right, now if geo is a prefix, meaning earth, and it was added on to the word fencing. Let me think of what fencing could be. Well, I know there's a sport called fencing, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I also know that a fence is kind of like houses have fences, schools might have fences. It's like a barrier. I have pictures pulled up right here. So fences can be like barriers to keep one area separate from another, to keep one area on its own, and to keep them at a good distance from each other. So I know a fence is like a barrier. Now let me go back. I'm going to break down this word off in the margins. I'm going to grab my text tool right here. Okay, so my root word, I think my root word is fencing, which means a barrier, because it keeps things separate. Like a fenced-in yard keeps the yard separate from the things around it. Now, I also decided that the prefix was the word geo, and I remember from looking back that geo has to do with the earth. So now I have to do a couple things to figure out what geofencing means. I have to combine the root word with the prefix and see, does a definition come about when I put those words together? So if I combine the prefix geo, which means earth, with the root word fencing, which is a barrier, I think I can kind of infer that this might mean geofencing, which is a type of technology, is a barrier around a piece of land. Maybe because it's different than just a normal fence, and we have the word geo there, earth is big. Maybe geofencing is a type of technology that makes a boundary over a big area of land or a public area of land. So let me write down my prediction there. Geofencing means a barrier or boundary over a large piece of land. Oh, Ms. Kelleher made a spelling mistake. Boundary, there we go. All right, now I have to use the text to see if my definition makes sense. I'm going to zoom out a bit. So I know that the text was talking about a software update, which has to do with technology, that stopped drones from flying within a certain distance of the White House. So a type of barrier that separates or gives a boundary to a larger piece of land, well, I think that makes sense, because what the software is doing is it's restricting the flight of the drone to a specific location. So I think it should make sense that geofencing is a type of technology or something that creates a boundary between the drone and an area of land, like the White House. All I had to do was put those words together, and it takes a little thought. You have to make sure it makes sense with the sentence, but I'm pretty proud of that. I think that one should make sense. Geo, earth, fencing, a barrier or boundary. The paragraph tells me that geofencing is a type of technology and that it polices or watches the flying of drones. So geofencing, a boundary or barrier over a large piece of land, a technology that separates the drone from areas like the White House.